Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everyone. Yeah, just trying to get your attention. So we're going to get started. If people could start making their way to the tables, please. Before we start, if there's a Jelani Newsom Noble, we have your U-Pass, so if you're missing a U-Pass, we have it up here just in case. Newsom Noble. Okay. All right. Anyways, hi, my name's Abina, and I am here to introduce our keynote speaker. We are very lucky to have Precious Davis, is lauded both locally and nationally as an award-winning diversity professional, social justice facilitator, and performance artist. She currently is the Assistant Director of Diversity Recruitment Initiatives at Columbia College, Chicago, her alma mater, from which she received a BA in Liberal Arts. Precious currently implements and oversees the campus-wide diversity initiative and is the first woman of color to hold this position. Precious served for 3 years as the Youth Outreach Coordinator at the Midwest's largest LGBT community center on Halsted. Her work at the Center on Halsted involved coordinating youth programming surrounding HIV prevention, transgender advocacy, and the LGBT leadership development. Under Precious' tenure, she's launched and coordinated a $1.6 million CDC grant, which provided outreach, education, and testing services to over 3,000 young African American and Latino MSM between the ages of 13 and 29. Through the appreciation of diverse and marginalized narratives in history and the retelling of such narratives, Precious locates herself, juxtaposes that which is complex in order to ultimately find the inner power within us all. With over 15 years of diversity training and leadership development experience, Precious is a highly demanded speaker and a panelist who has been featured at the University of Chicago, Northwestern University, the Museum of Contemporary Art in Chicago, the University of Michigan, the Chicago Community Trust, Soho House, the Chicago School of Professional Psychology, and today, she's going to be speaking at the Black Lives Matter Loyola conference. So please help me welcome Precious Davis.
Good afternoon. Did you have a good conference today? I just want to start by saying that this is a deep honor for me, and I feel deeply humbled by this opportunity. And I just want to thank the Black Lives Matter committee here at Loyola for the invitation. It's something that I do not take lightly. This is something that's very dear to me each time that I get close to a microphone and I get to share my story and I get to issue a challenge for a bright future. I don't take that lightly, and so thank you so much. As I start today, in the beginning, there's going to be a call and response. So I'm going to say, despite something, and then I'm going to ask that you say Black Lives Matter. Can we do that? All right. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. We repeat our mantra, Black Lives Matter. Despite all the news reports to the contrary. Despite all the senseless murders to the contrary. Despite all the dropped charges to the contrary. We repeat our mantra. The mantra has filled us. It has united us. It has inspired us to come together here today. So here we are together, gathered in solidarity, standing on the platform of our mantra, united in our movement for justice, not by a man, not by a preacher, not by any politician, not by one leader, but by a hashtag. Now, this doesn't mean that the hashtag has done all of the work for us. We have to recognize it's only a banner, a flag to call us together. It can never replace the on-the-ground support, mentorship, and activism performed by individuals for individuals every day in the real world. We must continue to uplift with gratitude all of our brothers and sisters who are stepping up into the roles of leadership and contribution. We are so grateful for groups like Black Youth Project 100 and Asada's Daughters right here in Chicago, who worked tirelessly to prevent Anita Alvarez from being re-elected as state attorney after her gross mismanagement of the Laquan McDonald case. We are so grateful for all of the Black Lives Matter chapters around the country and for community organizers like Opal Tometi, Alicia Garza, Patrice Colellers, the brilliant women who started the Black Lives Matter hashtag. We must continue this visionary trajectory, advance on our successes, and always be willing to put in the groundwork. But in this moment, we also have a new opportunity. More than ever before, we must take advantage of such circumstance where via social media and the internet, we have captured the world's attention with our call. Word travels fast. Information travels fast. When we are this connected to each other, this tapped into the matrix of information, this poised to spread a movement like wildfire, it becomes infinitely more important that we be conscious, active participants in that process, that we apply discernment, that we filter what we accept into our thoughts and our consciousness so that what we can create together, what we think up, what we dream of collectively, and what we manifest is of movement, is exactly what we truly intend. To guarantee that clarity and unity of purpose, each and every one of us has to make sure that we stay woke. To stay woke means a lot of things, but most importantly, it's about personal responsibility for your own beliefs and how they move you to act in the world. We cannot rely on any one teacher to construct our belief system. We cannot rely on any single political figure to shape our worldview and direct our approach. We do not have a Dr. Martin Luther King painting the collective dream across the sky for us all to see and strive for. We have to kickstart our own dream-making potential on an individual level. And to do that successfully, we must be smart and deliberate about which beliefs we accept into our hearts and our minds, and which beliefs we allow to fuel our dreams. And then, when we learn to dream, we must become active and not passive, not while sleeping, but consciously imagining and creating in a fully waking state. We must truly stay woke. There are three distinct aspects to staying woke that I want to touch on. The first two are foundational. I cannot overstate their importance. They are self-examination and self-education. Self-examination involves the internal world, and self-education involves the external world. But I use self in both concepts because, once again, this is about personal responsibility. Self-examination and self-education are both ongoing processes that are really never complete. They are not complete in anyone's lifetime, but rather be daunted by that. We should be excited by that. We are lifelong learners who are always growing, evolving, and striving forward. Now, this is a space of support and understanding today, right? Is this a safe space? I'm going to share some of my personal revelations from my own forays into self-examination, which have led me to the truths I embody today. I am a biracial trans woman. I am proud, I am confident, and self-aware and fulfilled in that identity today. But that wasn't always. For most of my life, I was immersed in a forcefully heteronormative Christian white environment. It started in kindergarten when my grandparents opted to put me in the afternoon class, which was all white, rather than the morning program, which was all black. I found myself singled out as one of the little black kids in a room full of white kids. And from that very first day, I started learning. I started imprinting. All the way up through high school, I continued on the white track in life. None of my schools were explicitly segregated. It wasn't in the official rules, But in Omaha, Nebraska, that's how it worked. If you wanted to take an honors class, if you wanted to be in the school musical, you were entering an almost entirely white domain. And so for me, this became the normal, to embrace, to identify, and to aspire to a standard of whiteness, to look away from blackness, to disconnect from it, even to feel shame and embarrassment about my birth family, about the part of town where I was born. Over all those years, I took on boarded prejudice and judgments against blackness, against black people, but I always got down with Whitney Houston. But most of this programming went straight to my subconscious without me even realizing as this process accumulated. Taught by white teachers, surrounded by white peers, reading white authors, and later on dating white gay boys while being immersed in the white gay community. Almost none of those societal standards and cues I learned growing up did anything to centralize my black greatness. Looking back now, I can see what that does to a person, how it conditioned me over time, a form of mind control in terms of how I viewed myself, how I viewed others. For years, though, it was always my unblossomed transness that took center stage when I would look inward and envision my future. And so it was only after finally achieving my transition several years ago that this other yearning was able to emerge from me. That other disconnect between my true self and the programming at the back of my mind became apparent, a cognitive dissonance that would not be silenced. A full half of my being was crying out to be heard, to be acknowledged. And so I began the journey back to my blackness. It has been a long process of re-educating myself, of searching, as if through an old photo album, through a history I barely knew. Most of the journey has been joyful, discovering the heroes, the role models, the actors, the artists, the singers, and the dancers that I was ignorant to for so long. Over time, Marilyn Monroe was replaced in my iconic consciousness for Dorothy Dandridge, Diane Carroll, and Diana Ross. Some parts have been more difficult, reconnecting with my birth family, returning to the place I spent so many years fleeing from, recognizing and reconciling with those men and women who are my blood, setting my gaze on their strengths rather than their weaknesses, finding total unconditional love and acceptance for them, despite disappointment after disappointment. Despite the mistakes they've made, I finally had to recognize that they had been suckered by the same system too. I also had to relearn my privilege as a light-skinned person of color, to find ways to navigate my advantages and access while all at the same time laying claim to my beautiful blackness. And today, I stand here jubilant, owning my beautiful black identity, engaged to marry the most handsome black trans man I've ever known. Thank you. Preparing to start our life in the historic black neighborhood of Chicago's Hyde Park, where we will raise our beautiful black children and teach them to love every part of themselves, their black bodies, their black hair, their black voices, and their black souls. This process has been so imperative to finding my purpose in life, but there is always another aspect to self-examination which is just as important. You must ask yourself, what are you really good at? What are your skills? What are your tools? And then what do you create with them? What do you really care about? What are you really interested in? What do you have to contribute? How can you benefit the movement? How can you benefit society in general? Go beyond what is required or expected of you. Give yourself assignments. Give yourself challenges, especially if your teachers or bosses aren't always challenging you. Create your own learning projects. Start a small business on the side. Make a web series for YouTube. Organize your colleagues to have a shared vegetable garden. Be firm with yourself. Demand a lot from yourself. Be patient with yourself, and realize that the experiences or conditioning you've had to overcome may be an insider perspective that allows you to reach someone else in a way that no one else can. Thank you so much. Your unique challenges and talents are indispensable to our cause. So face them, access them, and share them. Beginning this lifelong process of self-examination is a crucial building block to filling your life with purpose. Now, once we've taken the time to truly see ourselves, it's important to apply that critical lens to the world around us. Self-education can be an intimidating task because there's so much information, misinformation, guidance, misguidance, ugly truth, and beautiful deception out there. A vast array of falsehoods overshadow our own internal guidance system. So I say to you now, trust yourself. Trust your inner voice. Trust your higher self. Trust your own guidance. Appeal to it. Ask questions. We are all born with a profound intuition. We are all born with a predisposition to be good, to be noble, to be kind. Cherish and nurture that gift inside of you. Now set your task to looking at the world around you and looking deeply. Create a complete and honest picture of what's really going on. I say self-education because this is not an education you can get from any parent, any teacher, any school, any university, from anyone or anyone except yourself. I'm challenging you to go beyond your Facebook or your Yahoo newsfeed, beyond Gawker and Jezebel and BuzzFeed, beyond NPR and CNN and Fox News and the New York Times. It doesn't matter if the publication is conservative or liberal on all its space. All institutional media is controlled. All media is owned by the same 6 international corporations that have their own agendas with what and how the news gets reported. And almost the smaller publications just copy and paste whatever the bigger ones publish. Hard-hitting journalism is very hard to find, but it's out there if you look. I challenge you to choose a topic that you think you understand, and then go spend 30 minutes really digging into the truth of the matter. Read the books that are on the public schools ban list. Read books that don't make the New York Times bestseller list. The people who are really speaking truth to power don't often enjoy a ton of commercial success for obvious reasons. Read lesser-known blogs. Find local stories from places around the world. Read how the same stories are reported in here versus how they are seen in Russia or Lebanon or Malaysia. We should not trust any one source of information to create our entire vision of what's going on in the world around us. This ownership and direct responsibility for the beliefs you hold is a huge building block to discovering and aligning your life with purpose. So what do we see when we look around us? Some of the ugliness is quite obvious. We see heinous police brutality all over this country. We see cops murdering our people with impunity. We see an unjust, for-profit criminal justice system that has created the largest prison population in the history of the earth. We see our families shattered, our youth with no fathers, no role models, no support networks. We see inner cities plagued by guns and drugs, gangs self-annihilating each other. We see all of this, and we must ask ourselves, is this truly the natural order? Is this the inevitable flow of Black culture in society? I'm here to say no. This is not the way it's supposed to be. The truth is, hidden hands, hidden agendas, hidden elements within our own government have been working behind the scenes for many years to deliberately orchestrate the nightmare in which we currently live. Here, the task of self-education has to go a little bit underground. We have to take a look at the underbelly, the inner workings of the establishment that stretch back decades and even hundreds of years. There is so much information that would shock and infuriate people if they only knew it. But it is not a secret. It is readily available in alternative history books and declassified government documents and testimonies from whistleblowers, all of which are accessible to regular citizens and all which make a clear case to the utter depths of this corruption in itself. But the public, for the most part, just doesn't know about it because it's not pretty to look at, but also because mainstream media will not cover it. Mainstream media will not tell our stories. I want to demonstrate a quick example of how our social and global consciousness has been manipulated and constructed for us. When someone mentions the country of Ethiopia, what thoughts and images come to mind? Starving children, bloated bellies, extreme poverty, death, and despair. Now that may be true to some extent. Ethiopia as an agriculture economy and has been terribly affected by droughts in modern times. However, we must be diligent and conscious of how much the pervasive social construct of Ethiopia as the most pitiful of all of the third world. To what extent is this covering something else? What is this concealing or overshadowing? How many of us know that up until the 1970s, the Ethiopian Empire was ruled by the longest uninterrupted lineage of any royal dynasty in the world? Its emperors trace back to the King of Solomon, to the Queen of Sheba. When we look at early black and white photographs from the region from the turn of the century, we see splendidly adorned kings and queens in beautiful, intricate regalia. Where are these images in our textbooks? Where are our youth being exposed to this black social consciousness? All they see is a starving Africa on our televisions. Another example, we are told that any black Africans present during the height of ancient Greece and Rome were mostly slaves and perhaps athletes or entertainers. But in fact, that is not what the art and the artifacts from that time really suggest. If you only look at them for yourself, countless black figures depicted on pottery, on fine gold jewelry, and large-scale oil paintings and cast bronze statues from that time. They show black men and women fully incorporated into society. Business owners, aristocrats, ranking military officials, merchants consistently depict that they were equal to their white or brown counterparts. Shocking, right? But this is how tightly they control the information and the interpretation of how our history is presented as fact. By the way, I absolutely don't want you to take my word for anything I'm saying today. I want you to go to the library and see it yourself. We don't dig for information enough. Let's take a more timely example, which is part of the reason we are here today. Right now, we are clearly seeing and dealing with an epidemic of police brutality in this country. So why at the same time are local precincts all over the country being given military-grade weaponry? Why does the local sheriff need armored vehicles and rocket launchers? Is this communist China? Should we have to face tanks when we legally demonstrate and assemble to have our voices heard? And why, when we are already dealing with an epidemic of police brutality, are our local law enforcement officers being flown overseas to learn military tactics of population suppression? Why are they being trained in Krav Maga, a fighting style that is specifically designed to be brutal and deadly? This is the kind of training which results in horrible scenes like we all saw at that pool party in McKinney, Texas this year, when an officer body slammed a black teenage girl to the ground. The brutality we are witnessing is not from some mysterious origin. We can see that brutality is being fostered and encouraged on purpose. So it must come as no shock when the police who commit these atrocities are never held accountable for the murders they commit. They're doing exactly what the system has trained them to do. And the result? No justice is served. No justice for Eric Garner, for Michael Brown, for Laquan McDonald, for Trayvon Martin, for Sandra Bland, for Rekia Boyd, for Islan Nettles, for Paige Clay, for Lorena Extravaganza. The list continues. We speak their names now, and we will continue to speak their names. We will continue to remember. But what about the names of their oppressors, their murderers? Where are those names? Those names have already been wiped from public discourse. Those criminals get a month paid vacation, 15 minutes of fame, and now most of them are back to their normal lives as if nothing had even happened. When we go a little deeper, we quickly find this is nothing new. This is no accident. We now know this has been going on, that the taking of Black lives has been a sanctioned part of government activities for a long, long time. We now know that from declassified FBI documents that our government secretly ran programs such as COINTELPRO to infiltrate and undermine the Black civil rights movement. We know that the FBI deliberately and systematically targeted, harassed, framed, wrongfully arrested, and murdered in cold blood countless leaders and influential voices from within the Black empowerment movement. We know they killed Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Mountains of evidence are there if you have the willingness to look. We know this happened. They admit this happened. But then they think they can give us a day in his name, and we will forget. We will look away, and we will be appeased. We are not appeased. We know. Once again, staying woke. We also know that for years the CIA was deliberately and systematically running cocaine from Central America and funneling into Black neighborhoods and inner cities, specifically to get Black minds addicted, to destroy Black families, and to destroy Black culture and society. The same tactics were used by the British when they wanted more control over trade with China back in the 1800s. They illegally imported massive quantities of opium into Chinese cities to deliberately addict and destroy targeted populations. These tactics, once again, are nothing new. They are bold, they are blatant, but somehow they escape mass public awareness. Where is the outcry? We have whistleblowers that have come out now who were in the music industry or who were dealing drugs back in the 80s or 90s, who've made it very clear that the CIA was completely involved in the whole process of addicting Black America to drugs and violence. They masterminded this epidemic from start to finish. It included the so-called war on drugs, which we should call the war on minorities. They pushed a kind of music and a model of Black success designed to popularize and glorify drug culture, murder culture, gang culture. It was all done deliberately to kill Black society and to fill prisons for profit. Now, knowing they have done this to us on purpose from very high up on the chain of command, why would we even bother appealing to any part of this broken system to make it right? Listen, the system is rigged. The system is broken. The system is not designed to serve us. The system needs to be redesigned, and this is where our quintessential Black excellence comes into play. But before we create this new world, how do we survive in the current one? Once again, it's about staying woke. What's it about? Stay woke. This third aspect of stay woke I call community consciousness. And this one doesn't use the word self because it has nothing really to do with self, nor myself, nor yourself, nor your selfies, nor your Instagram, your Twitter, your Facebook, or anything else that keeps your head down and your nose pressed into your self phone. This one is about community, about paying attention to each other, caring about each other. We are community, and it is perilously important in these times that we take an active interest in each other's lives, that we take responsibility for each other, that we look out for each other, that we have profound conversations, that we deepen our connections with those in our inner circles, that we get to know our friends' families, we get to know the people in our neighborhoods, that we reform the networks of concern and support around us. We must rise against what has worked so hard to undermine our society for so long. Nina Simone said something so powerful at a concert she gave very soon after the FBI killed Dr. King. She said, "If only those around him had been closer. Why didn't they stay closer to him? If only they had been closer, he might have lived." Where was the community? Why were they not there? So we ask ourselves, how do we stay close to the ones we love? How do we protect each other? Actions like coming together today are a huge step in that process, but it plays out very simple through our everyday life as well. It's how we check in, how we make sure a friend isn't walking alone at night, how we ask about each other's home life, how we actively strive to be a positive role model for those younger than us. If you have a younger sibling, a younger cousin, kids in the neighborhood, make time for them. Sit down with them. Teach them algebra before their teachers do. Give them a book to read and discuss it with them afterward. Give them ideas where to look, where to find our history. Teach them things they won't hear in school. Help give them an advantage to their future. If you've achieved any form of success in your life, strive to find ways to share it and pay it forward. Take an adolescent or a teenager to lunch. Be a mentor, be a guidance, make them feel human, embrace them. Let's put an end to disdain, the calling out. Let's stop the belittling of each other. Stop shaming where the next person may be at in this moment. We must feel only care and concern and compassion for those in our social sphere. We spend so much time censoring language and policing our peers for their unconscious programming. But once again, what system programmed them? We have to keep an extremely critical, questioning, challenging gaze on the overarching institutional power. We have to recognize the origins of even the ignorance and hatred held onto by those who oppress us. It doesn't come from their DNA. It came from the same flawed social programming which has affected so many of us in so many ways. We must find ways to support each other as we emerge from this toxic sludge at our own pace. Once again, in the words of Nina Simone, we can't afford any more losses, not just from senseless murder and unjust imprisonment, but losses to a system which does not foster our genius, which actively discourages our youth from living up to their potential. We need every last one of us to achieve our full potential and make our unique contributions to the betterment of this world. We must practice restorative justice from within our own communities. Let that be our first and foremost activism. Together, we can restore each other. We recognize that the role of the patriarch in Black society has been under attack, the father figure nearly stricken from family life. So knowing this, we can fill in the gaps. The system has removed the image of Black masculinity as strength. We must restore it. Be a father to a child without a father. Be present. Be concerned. Show that someone is watching and that someone cares. Be a mother to a child without a mother. Be a sister. Be an auntie. This can be on an individual level, or we can volunteer with organizations that provide community outreach or skill building that provides empowerment on a larger scale. Instead of taking pharmaceuticals and mind-altering drugs when we get sick, let us feed ourselves the right way. Every one of us should have a garden. Just make sure that you grow some cilantro or basil and keep it fresh. I didn't write that, my fiance did, and I don't really think it's funny. But, Miles, that's for you. Teach our children to grow their own food, to provide for themselves. It's small ways like this that we begin to take our power back and become our own liberators. How do we stand in the gap for each other? Listening. Hear each other. Spend time building each other up. Spiritually investing in each other. Identify your unique strengths, your unique genius, your unique access or privilege, whatever it may be, and use it to positively change others. We've got to spend our dollar in our own communities, economically empowering ourselves. Capital gives people room to create and platforms to build on. We can self-fund our movement so we don't need to bow to institutions that are old and rotten at their core and whose policies who don't really advance the voices of Black and brown people, of queer people, of different able-bodied people, of Aboriginal, immigrant, and other disenfranchised populations. We can promote a different model. We can celebrate an alternative narrative. We can choose with purpose, where we focus our attention and consciousness and what we lift up into the spotlight for young people of color to learn their positive cultural self-identity. It is our task to redraw the narratives in our own mind, to promote a more truthful, complete telling of our history, a history of complex, advanced civilizations, of power, of knowledge, of science and art, of dance, of magic, of channeling, of costumes, of theater, of alternative social structures, of change and exchange, of nobility and of peace. And now, this is the really exciting part. This is the part where we remember our greatness, where we remember our creativity, our innovativeness, where we get to tap into the quintessential Black excellence. We know, tracing our Black roots to Africa, that art and music, vocalization and rhythm, creation on the most visceral level has always been intrinsic to our culture. Even throughout slavery, working 18 hours a day in the fields, bodies whipped, broken, and shackled, we were still creating works of music and dance that could grace the stage of Carnegie Hall today. We must honor that within us, that incredible fiery Blackness which, despite every known method to suppress and contain our humanity, crackled its way to the surface continually and always. And then we must recognize that this entire matrix, this corruption, these murders, this unjust social system, all of it is still in its place. It's hiding a secret from us, the secret of our inborn greatness, our creativity, our potency, our Black excellence, our power to truly rock the boat and upset systems of control, to overturn authority and to change reality. Black lives matter not just in the sense of ending senseless murders, but in the sense that we are essential to the advancement of human civilization as a whole. Isn't that so good? But in the sense that we are essential to the advancement of human civilization as a whole. Black lives matter because Black ingenuity matters, because we are the ones who are going to see a way out. We're going to invent a new way of doing things. We have the ability to envision and express a world that doesn't yet exist. Look around and see what we create every day. Listen to the way we're able to twist and manipulate language to create our own dialects. Look at the way we twist and manipulate our hair, the fact that we can create anything out of chaos. Look at how we morph and blend high and low culture, how we mix art into daily life, art into resistance, art into revolution. See how we experiment and explore the boundaries of clothing. Listen to us sing, listen to us jazz, listen to us rhyme, feel how we rhythm. Imagine if we applied all of this creative force to a specific goal. Recognizing our greatness, inhabiting our excellence. Black lives matter, yes, praise God, they do, every last one, but don't let it keep you in a survivalist mentality. More than our lives and our breath, our blood is at stake. Black minds matter, Black thinkers matter, Black imaginations matter, Black creators matter, Black dreamers matter, Black souls matter, Black singers matter, Black poets matter, Black artists matter, Black dissenters matter, Black activists matter, Black politicians matter, Black organizers matter, and Black people indeed do matter. It's time we fully own up to this role that we've always played in society as the idea makers, the game changers, that we truly analyze the world around us and that we create it for ourselves. We must reimagine clearly and manifest this directly, a society of opportunity, abundance, mutual respect, and the kindness we all dream of. And even saying it out loud right now, this is the first step. There's something metaphysical that happens when we come together in a room to talk like this, to vocalize, to speak into existence. Think of our ancestors chanting, singing, casting spells. We are the magic makers and miracle workers if we choose to be. And the most direct path to creating it, once again, is speaking into existence the new reality we want to see. So take these words, repeat them, spread them. I believe we are made in the likeness of God. We are creators. As we divest from the broken systems, building our own new world, we must continue to study models of restorative justice that empower members of our community from within. Instead of shaming or ostracizing those who are merely victims of decades of institutional mind control, we start that practice in the ways we discipline our children, the ways we resolve conflict, how we interact with each other in public and private spaces. We must reprioritize courtesy, manners, and respect. We must forge new models of mediation and community accountability. We can use the social media, the internet, newspapers, the music industry, all the tools that have been used to harm us, we can reverse to positively magnify our message. These are the building blocks of justice. Let us reclaim our dignity, restore the family, restore strong matriarchal and patriarchal role models. Let us advocate for new models of education, even if that means non-traditional or homeschooling. Let us support historically Black colleges and universities. Yes, HBCUs, shout out. Uplift educators, celebrate the richness of our heritage, and again, never forget to link our suffering to the overarching systems of oppression and the agendas of control that affect all people, Black, white, men, women, young and old. Instead of calling each other out, let us call each other in. We all have unique gifts to contribute, different roles to play in this movement. Some of us are meant to be joining in the march, voices joining in the chant. Some of us are meant to be critics and pot stirrers. Some of us are the teachers. Some of us are the infiltrators, working the system to change it from within. And some of us are the dreamers who will give shape to our collective hopes for tomorrow. I'm aware that this is no small task that I set before us today. It is a complete and utter revisioning of society in itself. But I promise you, it is an essential one. As I look around this room, my heart is full. I see promise and greatness. We may not see all of the fruits of the work in our lifetime, but again, this is why it is so important to make long-term investments, constant, consistent, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual engagement with those around us, with our youth, and with ourselves. We are never done learning, we are never done growing, and we are never, ever done creating. Assata Shakur said, "It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other. We have nothing to lose."